The chat box on Zoom is now open. Again, if you have an announcement, please put it in there. And if you may also want to take some time at this point early in the service to enter a joy or a concern, and it will be read during that part of the service. May also enter a donation into the funding link, which is also on the chat box today. Today, immediately after our service, those attending by Zoom will have a discussion time with Reverend Libby. Starting with next week's service, UUCLC Sunday services will be live in the church only. We hope that all who are able will join us in our lovely church home so that we can be together again. Committees and groups will continue to have the option to meet on Zoom. The board, with the help of the tech team, is exploring options for live streaming of our services at some point in the future. We would like to welcome anyone who wants to help in making virtual services possible for us again. Also, the board, on the recommendation of the Safe Congregation Committee, is announcing that starting next week, masks are still required, but you do not have to have a KN95 mask. You can wear the mask of your choice. There will be masks available if you forget one. Next Sunday, November 28th, there will be a special service with Sally Westover presenting the Singing Bowl meditation. And Val Condi is going to come up and tell us a little bit about that unique experience.
Good morning. I hope you can all be with us next Sunday. It will be a very unique service. We're going to say hello to you. We're going to light the chalice. We're going to turn it over to Sally, who plays a Tibetan singing bowl like this. But Sally has about 13 singing bowls. And they're all different tones. And she gives a concert that is about the most relaxing thing you will ever experience. You can watch it, but people have been known to just kind of close their eyes and deeply meditate and just listen. I really hope you can be here. We are partly doing this service just here. It's not going to be streamed, to give our tech team, who's been working so hard to do Zoom for everyone and here in the building, a time off. So we've decided to hire Sally for the months that have a 5th month. So luckily, December has a 5th month, I believe, a 5th week, excuse me, a 5th week, and I believe January does. So I hope that you enjoy her and that we get to see her a couple more times soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Val. The membership committee is again offering orientation classes. The first of the 2 classes is open to anyone who would like to learn more about UUCLC and more about Unitarian Universalism in general. The time and date of the class is now set at Saturday, December 11th from 1 o'clock to 2:30 in the social hall. If you are interested and have not signed up yet, please sign up on the sign-up sheet just outside the door here on the table, outside the sanctuary. If you have questions about the class, please contact Julie Twist or Jane Lovejoy. I don't think either of them is here today, but maybe somebody could put their
Julie's here.
Oh, she's on Zoom today. Okay, so she can put it in the chat, at least for the Zoom people. And you can contact me afterward if you would like to get more information. We're going to check our chat for announcements. Jane says that right now we have 5 participants signed up for the orientation class. That's great, but we'd love to get more if there's others of you that would like to participate in that. Okay. Does anyone else have an announcement? Anybody from the sanctuary at this point? Okay. Well, welcome to all. And now, as Doug Walker, a member of our tech team, moves the camera so our Zoom people can see those of you in the sanctuary, let's all wave once he gets the camera kind of turned around and aimed toward you. All right. Hi, everybody on Zoom. We hope to see you in the church soon. If there are first-time visitors or perhaps someone returning after a long absence, and if you're comfortable doing so, I invite you to stand and tell us who you are, where you're from, and what brought you here today. For those on Zoom, you can wave and place that information in the chat box if you would like. So do we have visitors today who would like to introduce themselves? Okay, we've got some folks up here. Doug's going to show you to the Zoom people.
Gail Beal.
Gail Beal.
Yes, years ago, many years ago, I belonged to a Unitarian church. But I had a long absence, other things in between. And what brought me is I looked through all of the, we moved about a year ago to Umatilla. And I looked through all the churches available, and this is the only one I would think to go to.
Welcome.
And your husband, John? Well, we welcome John and Gail today. We got some other folks over here that are visiting with Karen.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jake Linnett. This is my wife, Christina Norton. I'm originally from Virginia, and she's originally from Norway. I was raised UU in Richmond, Virginia. My mother, Kathy Linnett, got me involved in the church. Some of you may have even heard about her or know her. She's been involved for a long time. One of the founding members of the Linnett Spirit. First started doing that. And we are traveling for the first time since the before times, and had a wonderful experience in Western North Carolina, Snoopy gathering, and met one of your co-congressmen, Karen, who unfortunately is so she invited us down to come to join us.
Welcome.
Okay.
Check the chat, and we don't have any new visitors chatting to us this morning. Our speaker today is Reverend Libby Moore. Reverend Libby is a lifelong Unitarian Universalist who grew up in the White Plains Community Church and is now a member of First Unitarian Church of Rochester, New York, where she has been active with the UU Wellspring for the past 15 years. UU Wellspring is a spiritual deepening program developed in Rochester and now offered in many UU churches across this country and Canada. And Reverend Libby will have our opening words today. She is on Zoom, so we'll be finding her there today.
Good morning, all. Our opening words are from Mike Johnson, a UU minister and earth activist in Portland, Oregon. She writes, It is always good to give thanks. All that we have is a gift from life, our food, our relationships, our shelter from the cold. And when we give thanks, it is always good to be mindful of all people and notice those who are suffering and do what we can to ease suffering and change its causes. Today, we give thanks and we explore suffering. We must always do both together so that our hearts are strong for the journey. And the chalice lighting words: as surely as we belong to the universe, we belong together. We join here to transcend the isolated self, to reconnect, to know ourselves, to be at home, here on earth, under the stars, linked with each other.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Each Sunday, we make time for those who wish to offer a joy, a concern or sorrow, or to set an intention for the coming days. This portion of our service is not recorded. Please join me in reaffirming who we are by reciting together our Congregational Covenant found on the screen. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. It is our practice to give generously to our church as we are able, and keeping in mind both its meaning in our lives and its impact in the world. We are thankful to all who provide financial support for UUCLC. You may donate in the locked box on the table right over there by the door on your way out today. And those of you in Zoom can donate through the link. And we thank you for your donations.
For the earth forever
Good morning. I invite you now into a time of meditation and shared silence. Settle yourselves into your chair, wherever you are. Notice your feet on the floor, your hands resting on your lap. Close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. Without thinking, your breath comes in and goes out. Notice it with curiosity, with wonder at how this body of yours knows how to breathe in and out all by itself. Offer a silent prayer of gratitude for the air that sustains your life. Without controlling it, your heart beats again and again. You may be able to feel it or not, but there it is, pumping blood and oxygen and nutrients throughout your body. Offer a silent prayer of gratitude for your heart that sustains your life. Now, notice your skin and how the fabric of your clothing rests on your skin. Where did this fabric come from? It might be cotton, grown in soil with rain and sunlight and clouds, harvested by people we don't know and never will. Imagine the people who sewed your clothes, working to feed their families. Imagine the ships and railroad cars and trucks and their drivers that brought these clothes to your home, your body. Ponder the multitudes that went into this life. Sun and rain and air and earth and energy and human beings. In the spirit of this Thanksgiving week, offer gratitude to the earth, to the plants and animals and human beings who make it possible for you to be here this morning. I invite you now into a few moments of shared silence to contemplate the enormous web of creation which sustains our lives. Let us be silent together. And now gently open your eyes. Look around you at the community here. May our gratitude be a blessing to all beings, to the earth, to all that inhabit the earth, to those we love, to those whom we don't know, to all that sustains life. Amen. Blessed be. So on this Sunday before Thanksgiving, I offer thanks to the miracle of Zoom and to the people who figured out how to make it work. And I offer thanks to your very own worship team who make it possible for this hybrid service today. It's a huge challenge, and they are dedicated souls. Even though I love being asked to speak here, I'm delighted that you're meeting again in your own sanctuary and that you may not need Zoom for a while. I come to you this morning from the ancestral lands of the Seneca Nation, keepers of the Western Door in New York State, part of the Haudenosaunee people. Here in Western New York, we are just entering the long months of chill and darkness, and soon snow, which you all have escaped by living in Florida. Wherever we live, though, November is a month of complexity, encompassing both grief and gratitude. The month begins with remembrances of the dead in many cultures. In Mexico, it's El Dia de los Muertos. In the Christian tradition, it's All Souls Day. In Celtic spirituality, Halloween, which is the night before November begins, marks the halfway point between the fall equinox and the winter solstice. It's thought to be a time when the veil between the living and dead is thinnest, when we are most connected with those we have loved and lost. And then November moves on to Veterans Day, when we remember our complicated feelings of gratitude and grief for those who served our country in the military. I remember my beloved late husband, who was so proud to be a Navy pilot. I barely remember my father, who died not long after World War II of a disease he brought back from the Philippines. No matter how we feel about war, we honor all the veterans who served. And November keeps plowing on, getting colder and darker until we come to Thanksgiving, which is supposed to be a time of gratitude and joy. And at the same time, grief burbles up alongside the gratitude. There's grief at the horrors that Indigenous people in this country encountered with the arrival of European colonists. Many of us grew up hearing the familiar story of the first Thanksgiving as a jolly feast. In school, we were taught that a man named Squantum or Squanto helped the English plant crops. He taught them to bury a fish under the corn seeds, as I recall. It turns out this whole tale was a myth. The truth that we did not learn in school is that those settlers and the ones who came after were horrendously destructive to the Indigenous people. What we weren't told was that the man they called Squantum was a Wampanoag whose name was really Tisquantum. We were never taught that Tisquantum had been enslaved and taken to Spain and then to England by traders who sailed and fished these shores before the Pilgrims. When he was eventually brought back, Tisquantum discovered that his entire village, all his people, had died, probably of smallpox. The disease had probably been transmitted by the very traders who had enslaved him. He was the only one left of all his people, and so he worked with the Pilgrims, but he worked as an interpreter, a guide, an advisor, and he helped them negotiate treaties, most of which were broken later on. My source for all this is a UU reflection called Thanks Grieving by Dr. Isabel Call. She concludes with this. Since 1970, the United American Indians of New England have commemorated a National Day of Mourning every fourth Thursday in November. They proclaim Thanksgiving Day is a reminder of the genocide of millions of Native people, the theft of Native lands, and the relentless assault on Native culture. The National Day of Mourning is a day of remembrance and spiritual connection, as well as a protest of the racism and oppression which Native Americans continue to experience. I have to admit, I find myself reluctant to tell this story and spoil Thanksgiving. For many of us, this is our favorite holiday. It's about food and family. And this year we may actually get to be with people we love, unlike last year. There's no buying presents, just preparing and sharing food and plenty of laughter and gratitude. I know that my reluctance to talk about our hard history is a symptom of my white fragility. And I know that it is our privilege to have that choice about whether to tell these painful truths, to face the pain we have caused. This morning, I choose to share these truths with you, hoping that knowing the truth helps us to honor the spiritual connection and painful remembrances of this day. Gratitude has always been the most basic of spiritual practices, not just on Thanksgiving, but every day. Meister Eckhart said, "If the only prayer you ever say is thank you, it is enough." We know that paying attention to the gifts of our lives helps us to feel more connected, more content, happier. But I discovered still deeper layers of gratitude in Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. I'm sure some of you have read this. It's been talked about for months now. She helps us see the world through a new set of eyes. Kimmerer is not only a botanist trained in the tools of science, but a member of the citizen Potawatomi Nation. From the lens of her indigenous culture, she understands the interrelatedness of all beings. Our first teachers were plants and animals and rivers and mountains and the earth, all living beings. Human beings have been on this earth such a short time compared to other life forms. We learn from them if we only are patient and listen and watch and observe. Kimmerer writes a whole chapter about the Onondaga Thanksgiving address, known as the words which come before all else. Gratitude in the Onondagan culture is the highest priority. In the Thanksgiving address, every part of nature, animals and fish and birds and people and trees and plants and sky and rain, every part is thanked in turn for fulfilling its duty to the others. Kimmerer writes, "You can't listen to the Thanksgiving address without feeling wealthy. And while expressing gratitude seems innocent enough, it is a revolutionary idea. In a consumer society, contentment is a radical proposition. Recognizing abundance rather than scarcity undermines an economy that thrives by creating unmet desires. Gratitude cultivates an ethic of fullness, but the economy needs emptiness. The Thanksgiving address reminds you that you already have everything you need. That's good medicine for land and people alike." And she says that sometimes non-native people who hear the Thanksgiving address at a meeting or someplace, they fidget at the long recitation, which takes time to do properly. And when people complain, she says, "Poor you, what a pity that we have so much to be thankful for." The heart of gratitude, Kimmerer says, is that we are bound together in a reciprocal relationship with all existence. Cultures of gratitude must also be cultures of reciprocity with each person, human or not. And one of the astonishing and wonderful things that I learned from this book is that plants and animals and the earth are also beings, persons. Imagine how differently we would behave toward the land if we considered it a person rather than a thing to be used. Imagine how differently the settlers would have treated the native population if they had seen them as persons. Reciprocity is at the heart of how we are all bound together. It sounds like our interdependent web of which we are all a part. Thich Nhat Hanh, the Buddhist teacher and writer, calls it interbeing. We can't exist as individuals without the existence of all beings. We need light and air and water and soil and people and trees and animals and flowers. None of us can exist without the presence of others. For this, we give thanks. Kimmerer believes we should treat the land, our gardens, the way we treat our children, nurturing, protecting, encouraging, sharing, celebrating, recognizing our interdependence, creating beauty. And she knows this. The land loves us back, she says. She loves us with beans and tomatoes, with roasting ears and blackberries and birdsong, by a shower of gifts and a heavy rain of lessons. She provides for us and teaches us to provide for ourselves. That's what good mothers do. Imagine how different our world would be if we honored reciprocity with all beings. Imagine giving thanks every morning for the clean water to make your coffee, for the farmers who harvested your coffee beans, for the sunlight and water that allowed them to grow, for the electricity and the people who harness it that allows us to heat the water to make the coffee. There is no end of interdependence, and our role is to offer thanks, to be aware of the gifts we receive. And our role is also to grieve the damage we have done, to acknowledge the pain caused by years of using the earth as a resource, taking what we want, giving nothing back. Whatever we can do to heal it, let us begin. We can take only what we need. We can compost and recycle and use fewer resources. We can vote for people who respect the earth and want to help it heal from the damage that has been done. From our loving and our gratitude, we take baby steps that will lead toward healing, but we have a long way to go. So we have grief and gratitude for the land. And we also have grief and gratitude on a very personal level. At this time of year, many of us grieve for those we love who have died, who have left an empty place at the Thanksgiving table. Let me tell you just a little bit about my complicated family. My father died when I was 3. My mother left with 2 little kids, remarried a couple of years later. Suddenly we were a family of 6 and I felt a tad lost. But my Nana, my real father's mother, loved me wholeheartedly. She used to tell me, I waited 17 years for you, which was how long since my older cousin, a boy, had been born. Nana loved having a granddaughter. She spoiled me and made me feel special. For a few years, when I was 6 and 7, she would come to our house in White Plains for Thanksgiving and then take me back to Brooklyn with her on the train. We'd ride the subway to Radio City Music Hall and we'd go to the automat where we put our nickels in the little slots, and the shining glass doors had pie and sandwiches behind them. And we opened up the doors and took out the food. But Nana died when I was 12, and I was devastated. I was a child who was loved in a family that always had plenty of food and a nice house. But Nana treasured me in a way that no one else did, and I grieved her loss. As I look back, my gratitude for her vibrant, loving presence grows every year. We all need that unconditional love to survive and thrive. My mother was a fabulous cook. For her, holidays were more about food than any religious celebration. She and I used to watch Julia Child together and try to make some of those amazing recipes. We created fabulous holiday dinners together. Mom had a laugh that we could hear from anywhere in the house or anywhere at church. Or if we were in a performance at school, we knew where she was sitting in the auditorium because she laughed so loud. She supported me through the most painful experiences of my life. She said once that it was more important for her to maintain our relationship than to be right, even when she was right. I treasured that piece of wisdom. She died unexpectedly of a massive heart attack 35 years ago. I remember that moment with such pain and intense clarity. And I remember her love and the way she adored my son and her embellishments when she told the story and her warm hugs. And I am grateful for all the love and support that she offered, especially through my really difficult teenage and early adult years. I grieve her loss, and I am so grateful that she was my mother. And my beloved late husband, Bob, who was a Navy pilot in the Korean War. It wasn't a first marriage for either of us, but it was the one that lasted. We often disagreed on things, as spouses do, and I sometimes felt frustrated at how I had to do all the cooking and shopping. But I loved him, and I miss him. And the longer I live without him, the more I appreciate all the gifts he gave me, some of which I didn't recognize until he was gone. He offered me unwavering support when I wanted to go to seminary. He gave me the freedom to travel and see places I would never have seen without him. He provided financial security that I had never expected in my life, even though I have always worked. Bob cared for me and took care of me in the best way he knew how, and I am so grateful to him. The gratitude only grows. I've heard it said that grief never dies, we just learn to live with it. Certainly, the grief I feel for Nana and Mom and Bob will never die, but with time, I learned to focus more on the gifts they offered. Gratitude lives alongside the grief and often even outshines it. I have lived a life with many gifts. I have lost many whom I've loved, friends and family, comrades, colleagues, but still, life is good. May you find joy and gratitude along with any grief you may feel this Thanksgiving. May love grow through our interdependence and our connections with one another. May it be so, and amen. We'll sing hymn number 128, For All That Is Our Life.
For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use to build a common ground and make our own days glad.
this point in our program, we check the chat to see if we have any other messages from our Zoom people. And we have one from our treasurer. Just a reminder that to make a new pledge for the year 2021-22, send an email to our treasurer, Christina Wilkins, at clwfl@hotmail.com with the amount that you wish to contribute and how often you want to contribute. So that's for everyone in the congregation. We encourage you to pledge.
So the words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the warmth of community, the fire of commitment, or the light of truth. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. The wide universe I travel